Welcome back, welcome back. There was one really triumphant winner at this week's Oscar ceremony, Slumdog Millionaire, the rag-to-riches story set in Mumbai. It walked off with no fewer than 8 Academy Awards. They included Best Picture and Best Director for Danny Boyle. So thrilled was Danny on getting the award that he bounced up and down on the Oscar podium like the character Tigger from Winnie the Pooh. Well, the very next day, I sat down in Hollywood with the man himself. Danny, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Huge congratulations. Tell me, in all that evening, were you sort of confident during the evening, or were you deliberately not being confident? Because everyone was tipping you.
Yes, we were. There was a lot of word in our favour. I mean, you can't assume anything because it is a secret vote. There's all sorts of talks about this. The tone is very conservative when it actually comes to vote, rather than talking to people, general talk around town. But we had. I mean, I've made a few films and I've felt the love of this town when it's not particularly sincere. But it felt very sincere to me, working this film. You felt like people had really taken the film to their heart in a way that astonished me. I mean, I thought the film would work in the UK. I did. I was confident about it because I thought the story's strong and our links with India. But I was never sure it would work here. But anyway, it was extraordinary, really, for all sorts of reasons. We had a lot of the kids in from India, which made it a kind of more like a family kind of feeling, which was nice. That helped a lot, I think. And the evening itself was quite exhilarating, really, like seeing Beyonce and people like that. And we, of course, because we'd so many nominations, we were near the front, which I've never really been at many events anyway. So that makes it a lot better. The view's a lot better down there. It was lovely, actually. It was, and it wasn't particularly nerve-wracking until my own kind of thing came up, the Best Director thing, when I felt absolutely sick suddenly, in a way that was really shocking to me. And then you're on stage and you sort of, it all goes a bit woolly and you can't quite remember. Like I
forgot. You got some jokes you forgot?
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much that. I knew I wanted to do something about Tigger because I'd promised my kids years ago that if we'd had this joke that I would wear a Tigger costume, so it wasn't. Thank God, I couldn't carry it out completely. And I was going to sing the Tigger song. You know, there's a famous Tigger song. It was written by Richard Sherman, actually, a guy I met here. It was a wonderful.
He wrote a film for me once, the music for Slipper and the Rose, the Sherman brothers.
Yeah, the Sherman brothers, wonderful songwriters, beautiful, popular songwriters. And I was going to sing the Tigger song, and then I thought, no, don't do any of that. And so I just jumped about a bit, and it was. Yeah, I forgot my agent.
Oh, did you?
I forgot to mention him, but then that won't make you feel very sad.
Mention him now. What's
Robert Newman.
Robert Newman.
He was a great.
Wherever you are, Robert, you've been remembered. You've been remembered. Yeah. And is it thrilling how many things have scripts been thudding onto your bed all day today?
Not quite. I've kind of I don't really do much in this town. Very much, and I think they know that, really, so I don't really go through the process of lots of scripts. I tend to generate my own material. I'm not a writer. I work with writers and kind of but I have quite close relationships with 2 or 3 writers, and I tend to generate my own material with them. It's their material, really, and I direct it, and I tend to do that rather than work for studios.
And you said on one occasion that the pressure on what to do next is horrible. A lot of people who wouldn't mind that.
I know, it's a very nice pain to have, isn't it? I think that was Scorsese said, the genius is in the choices, because when you've had a bit of success, the problem is what to do next. No, I'm very lucky though, because I've made quite a few films. I've had a taste of making a bigger budget film. I made a bigger budget film called The Beach, which I didn't make a very good job of, to be honest, and I sort of learned quite a lot about what I'm better at, and the skills I have, such as they are better on the kind of film that Slumdog is than a much bigger studio type film.
Do you know what you're going to do next? Now?
I don't actually know. I've been doing Slumdog's publicity since September, and literally have not had much headspace to think of anything. So I'm looking forward to going home to London and having a cup of tea and starting to have a think, all that sort of stuff. Really
now, lots of people said about Slumdog that it was a feel-good film. And but a couple of us here who loved it as a film, but actually we found it quite sad.
Yeah.
Is it sad?
There's a sadness in it, and I think there's a toughness in it as well. There's some of it is really horrific, but you obviously do see some things in India that's are appalling and fill you with a kind of moral horror, really, and it's part of the process of how you deal with it yourself. We wanted the film to have a kind of energy in the end that we found in the city. I mean, Simon Beaufoy, who wrote the script, and me, I think we both felt the same about the city, really, that there was something transcendent about it in the end, despite some horrors.
Really, and you call it the maximum city. I mean, should we get from the film that Mumbai is a lovely place, or a
I don't think lovely is the word.
Horrible place?
I don't think lovely is the word. I don't think horrible is the word either. No. It's materially very poor in many instances, and it's a bit of a challenge to your senses. But there is an extraordinary dedication to life there, lived as though it is nothing and as though it is everything at the same time. So they have this thing called danda, which is business. Everybody's doing business. It doesn't matter how poor people are, and there are some horrifically poor people. Everybody's working, everybody's doing something, you know, and they call that danda, the exchange. And they have that, and then they have this love of Bollywood, the dance, the song and dance, and together they create this sense of life, which is spectacular, really, and there's nothing really to look at very much, apart from people. And they all carry that gene, really. They seem to, and that's what we found, and what we wanted the film ultimately to reflect, that it was not a feel-good film that's been attached to it by other people, but that its spirit was high at the end, yeah, and that it was a triumph for the lowest, really, for the common guy, really, who makes up so much of that town, you know.
Do you think some of the actors will get careers in Western films, in international films, or is it tough for them to do it? Anil Kapoor, I know, I did an interview with him, he loved it. He was leaping on that stage with such pleasure last night.
He is a brilliant actor. Whether he can generate a big career in the English language, I don't know. I'd like him to, and I think there will be some opportunities now, because you do sense things are changing. Yeah. It's not our film solely, although it certainly can become a figurehead for it. When we were working there, you could see all sorts of changes going on. Steven Spielberg was setting up a big deal to refinance DreamWorks through Reliance, the big telecommunications company in India. Will Smith was out there setting up this deal for his film company. Sony were trying to release a film exclusively. Disney had done an entirely Hindi animated film, their first one. And all these things are beginning...
And Andrew Flintoff had made over $1 million in the cricket auction.
Yes, in cricket. And Kevin Peterson.
Yeah.
So it is changing, certainly. Whether they'll be able to generate a career, I don't know. Frida's doing very well, the girl who plays Latika, the older Latika, and Dev, they've both got work now in other movies, and I'm very pleased for them. They've worked very hard, and they've positioned themselves beautifully, you know. So good luck to them, you know. We'll see what it holds for them.
But is there a sort of film you haven't done that you would like to do sometime? Someone asks you about, why don't you do a Western? Well, I suppose there are cities in Westerns, but you love cities, don't you?
I do, yeah. I'd like to do a musical. I mean, and I'd like to do an animated film as well, because bringing my kids up, I've watched every animated film, you know, of the last 20 years. Yeah, I mean, many times, and on DVD, and all their extras as well, and, you know, the lot. Yeah. And it was lovely, I met John Lasseter, the guy who runs Pixar, and that was a thrill to meet him. And I'd love to do an animated film, I'd love to do a musical. I'd love to I like doing things where you don't really know quite what you're doing, necessarily. Where it's
I can see
you know,
that,
like,
yeah.
It's fresh, and you have to learn some skills, and you have to start at the bottom and do your research and find out about things and not take anything for granted. I like that feeling, rather than follow the vein of what you're successful at, you know, because you it can easily become quite cunning filmmaking, quite quickly, quite technical, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, you know. You should be struggling sometimes to know what you're doing, I think.
Yeah. And do you think there is a lesson in the psyche of India? You talked about its amazing spirit, you talked about the miserable parts of it and so on, the tragic parts of it, but is there, in the Indian approach to life, is there a lesson for us in the West, you and I are in the West, but I mean America as Britain and so on?
I don't know, I found out quite a lot about myself. And
Did you?
Yes, I did. And I found out, I was surprised, because I thought it was I'd read this kind of stuff, but I thought it was kind of hippie stuff, and I'm more of a punk instinctively, and I kind of grew up as a sort of punk, and but they say to you, you have to embrace contradictions there and not kind of try to rationalise them or fight them or solve them. You kind of embrace them. And I found myself doing that, learning to do that, and I was quite surprised at the change it made for me. And of course what they say to you is that if you do that, you emerge with something more important than a solution. You emerge with something bigger than a solution in a way. Because they say some things are not solvable really, which is, I mean, one of the things is poverty. What do you do about poverty? And we've been put in a position, although we've made an entertaining film, suddenly you're in a position where you're expected to say something about poverty. People say to you, what do you think the Indians should do about it? Yes. And you go, well, it's
a big subject.
It's a big subject. It's a big democracy already, India. It'll have its own solutions to its own problems rather than taking advice from the British again about anything. You've got to be very careful about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But now the fascinating thing is that all of this might never have happened. You nearly became a priest.
I did, yeah. That's right.
Were you quite close to it?
I was about to. When I was 12, I was at a Salesian college, which is a teaching order, the Salesian brothers, and I was about to move to a seminary in Wigan, up Holland Seminary in Wigan. And my mum, who was a devout Irish Catholic, was very keen for me to do that. And a priest who was teaching me, Father Conway he was called, he said, I don't think you should do that. I think you should wait and finish your education here and see what you think then. And so I didn't. I don't even remember.
And you said about him wonderfully that you didn't know whether he was trying to preserve your life or preserve the priesthood.
Which he was trying to save, I know. Yeah. I still don't know, but I'm delighted and very, I owe him a great deal, really. So, because then you discover girls and music and all the kind of things that make up life,
My goodness, you'd had to give up a lot, apart from films, wouldn't you?
Yes, absolutely. Well, so, yeah, but I was, and it's interesting, there's a number of film directors have been down that road. Martin Scorsese, John Woo, supposedly, were both destined for the priesthood in their lives and very close to becoming a priest, I believe, And Joseph Stalin was also almost a priest, supposedly.
Was he?
Yeah, I believe so.
What
you see, autocrats, you see.
Yeah, odd sort of priest.
No idea.
So, the headline tomorrow will be that Danny Boyle nearly followed in the footsteps of Stalin. That will be there.
Yes.
Yes, I can imagine that. Hey, it's a joy to talk. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, David.
Such a delight.
Thank you very much.
Danny Boyle there. After the break, we'll find out about Russia after the first year of the marriage between President Medvedev and Vladimir Putin. Is it still a happy marriage?